I never thought I'd find myself in this situation, standing in a crowded hospital waiting room, my hair disheveled, wearing the same wrinkled clothes from yesterday, and feeling the burning stares of my husband's family piercing through me like daggers. "Look at her," my mother-in-law, Margaret, whispered loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. 3 hours of waiting and she looks completely pathetic, barely even human. My father-in-law chuckled, adjusting his expensive watch. "That's what happens when you marry beneath your station, son." I kept my eyes fixed on the scuffed linoleum floor, counting the black and white tiles to distract myself from their words. 1, 2, 3. My husband David stood silently beside them, scrolling through his phone, pretending not to hear the cruel remarks directed at his wife of 5 years. We were at Manhattan Presbyterian, one of New York's most prestigious hospitals. My mother-in-law had insisted on coming here after she'd experienced chest pains during their annual family dinner at the Pierre Hotel. The dinner I'd been uninvited to because I was too common for their social circle. "I can't believe we have to wait in line like common people," Margaret continued, her diamond earrings catching the fluorescent lights as she turned to glare at me. "This is your fault somehow. If we'd gone to Dr. Richardson like I wanted—" Mother, please," David finally murmured, barely looking up from his phone. His weak defense only made me feel more alone. I'd rushed to the hospital as soon as David called, leaving my shift at the research lab without even changing. My lab coat was stained with coffee and chemical indicators, my hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Next to the Winters family in their designer clothes, I looked like the help. "You couldn't even bother to change before coming to a hospital," my sister-in-law Ashley sneered, adjusting her Chanel purse on her lap. "God, it's like you want people to think we associate with people like you." I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood. 5 years of marriage, and I was still an outsider. David had promised his family would warm up to me eventually, but that day never came. Instead, their disdain had only grown more pronounced, more public. "Mrs. Winters?" A nurse called from the front desk. Margaret stood up, smoothing her silk blouse. "Finally, let's go, family." I moved to follow them, but Margaret's hand shot out, stopping me. I said, "Family, you can wait here." David glanced between us, then shrugged. "Just wait here, Emma. We won't be long." As they walked away, I heard my father-in-law's rumbling voice. "You really should reconsider this marriage, son. The prenup is solid, but every day you stay married to that nobody is another day wasted." I sank back into my chair, fighting back tears. This wasn't the first time they'd excluded me, but it hurt every single time. I pulled out my phone to distract myself and saw 3 missed calls from Dr. Larson, the head of our research division. Just as I was about to call him back, the main doors to the emergency department opened and Dr. James Chen walked in. My heart skipped a beat. Dr. Chen was one of the most renowned cardiologists in the country, and also the primary investor in our research project on targeted cardiac therapies. He scanned the waiting room, his eyes landing on me. A smile broke across his face. "Dr. Emma Winters!" he called out loudly, walking directly toward me. The entire waiting room turned to look. I stood up awkwardly, acutely aware of my disheveled appearance. "Dr. Chen, I didn't expect to see you here." He shook my hand firmly. "When Dr. Larson told me you were here, I came immediately. We've been trying to reach you all afternoon." I felt my face flush. "I'm sorry. It's been a chaotic day. My mother-in-law had chest pains and no need to explain," he said, his voice carrying throughout the now quiet waiting room. "The results came in from the clinical trials. Your targeted therapy protocol worked better than anyone anticipated. The board is meeting in the VIP conference room upstairs right now." I blinked in confusion. "Now? But I'm not prepared for a presentation." Dr. Chen laughed. "Emma, you've just developed what might be the most significant breakthrough in cardiac treatment this decade. The pharmaceutical companies are already calling. Johnson & Merck is offering 8 figures for the patent rights alone." My mind was spinning. The research project I'd been leading for 3 years, the one my in-laws had dismissed as playing scientist whenever I tried to explain it, had finally yielded results. "Doctor Miller is waiting for us in the VIP section," Dr. Chen continued, gesturing toward the private elevator, "along with some representatives from the National Institutes of Health. They're discussing emergency approval procedures as we speak." Just then, the Winters family emerged from the examination room, Margaret looking annoyed as always. They froze when they saw me standing with Dr. Chen. "Emma?" David said, confusion written across his face. "What's going on?" Before I could answer, Dr. Chen turned to face them. "Ah, you must be Dr. Winters's family," he said pleasantly. "I'm Dr. James Chen, head of cardiology and chairman of the hospital board." Margaret's eyes widened as she recognized one of the hospital's most prominent donors. "Dr. Chen, it's an honor. I'm Margaret Winters. This is my son, David." Dr. Chen nodded politely. "You must be incredibly proud of your daughter-in-law. Her work is about to change millions of lives." The silence that fell over my in-laws was deafening. Margaret's mouth opened and closed without producing sound, while my father-in-law's normally ruddy face had gone pale. Margaret stammered, clearly trying to reconcile the pathetic woman she'd been mocking with the researcher being summoned to a VIP meeting. "Emma, we really should get upstairs," Dr. Chen said, checking his watch. "The NIH director is on video conference and he doesn't have much time." I nodded, still processing everything. "Of course." As Dr. Chen guided me toward the private elevator, I turned back briefly. The look on my in-laws' faces was something I'd never seen before, a mixture of shock, confusion, and something else. Respect. "Emma, wait," David called, hurrying after us. His expression had transformed from indifference to urgent interest. "I'll come with you." Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. "I'm afraid this is a closed meeting, Mr. Winters. Confidentiality agreements and all that. I'm sure your wife will fill you in on the details she's permitted to share afterward." The elevator doors opened, revealing a plush interior with wood-paneled walls. 2 security guards in suits stood at attention. "Dr. Winters, this way please," one of them said, addressing me with a deference I'd never experienced from my husband's family. As the elevator doors began to close, I caught one last glimpse of the Winters family. They stood frozen in the middle of the waiting room, other patients whispering and pointing at them now. For once, they were the ones being stared at. Inside the elevator, Dr. Chen pressed the button for the top floor. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance," he said with a small smile. "Dr. Larson mentioned you might be dealing with some family dynamics." I felt a rush of gratitude toward my mentor. "Doctor, Larson had witnessed my in-laws' behavior at several hospital functions and had always been protective of me." "Thank you," I said quietly. "You have no idea what that meant to me." The elevator ascended smoothly to the top floor, opening into a world I'd never seen before. The VIP section of Manhattan Presbyterian was like a luxury hotel. Plush carpeting, original artwork on the walls, and staff dressed in tailored uniforms who greeted Dr. Chen by name. We walked down a hallway to a large conference room where several people were gathered around a polished table. I recognized Dr. Miller, the hospital's director, and several other prominent researchers. A large screen on the wall showed a video feed of Dr. Caroline Foster, the director of the National Institutes of Health. "Ah, there she is," Dr. Foster said from the screen. "Dr. Winters, congratulations on your breakthrough. We've been reviewing your data all afternoon." For the next hour, I presented my research to some of the most influential people in medicine. My targeted therapy used nanoscale delivery systems to address specific cardiac tissue damage without affecting healthy cells, something that had been theoretically possible but never successfully implemented until now. When I finished, the room erupted in applause. "This is exactly the kind of innovation we've been waiting for," Dr. Foster said. "The NIH is prepared to fast-track this through clinical trials, and Johnson & Merck's offer is just the beginning." I've already had calls from 3 other pharmaceutical companies. Dr. Miller stood up, shaking my hand vigorously. Dr. Winters, we'd like to offer you the position of Director of Cardiac Research, effective immediately, with a substantial budget increase, of course. My head was spinning. After years of working nights and weekends while enduring my in-laws' constant belittlement, everything was changing in a single afternoon. I don't know what to say, I managed. Say yes, Dr. Chen laughed, and then we'll discuss the particulars of your compensation package. I think you'll find it life-changing. By the time the meeting concluded, I felt like I was floating. Dr. Chen walked me back to the elevator. Take the rest of the day to process everything, he said kindly. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 9 to sign the paperwork and begin planning the next phase. As the elevator descended, I tried to gather my thoughts. My phone had been buzzing non-stop with messages from David and his family. I ignored them all. When the doors opened to the main floor, I was surprised to see my in-laws still waiting. 3 hours had passed, and they looked significantly less polished than before. Margaret's perfectly coiffed hair had begun to frizz, and my father-in-law's expensive suit was wrinkled from sitting too long. "Emma!" David rushed forward, his face a mask of concern that I'd never seen directed at me before. "What happened? Is everything okay?" Before I could answer, Margaret pushed forward. "Emma, dear," she said, her voice suddenly honey-sweet. "We've been so worried. You disappeared for hours." I looked at her, remembering how just a few hours ago she'd called me barely human and excluded me from their family group. "I'm fine," I said coolly. "Just a meeting about my research." "Your research?" My father-in-law scoffed, then caught himself. "I mean, that's wonderful. Perhaps you could tell us more about it over dinner. I've made reservations at Le Bernardin." I looked at my father-in-law, standing there with his forced smile and sudden interest in my career. The same man who had repeatedly told David that marrying a woman with ambitions was a mistake was now offering to take me to one of the most exclusive restaurants in Manhattan. "I'm afraid I can't make dinner," I said, my voice steady. "I have an early meeting tomorrow to sign my new contract." "Contract?" David asked, moving closer to me. His cologne, the one I'd bought him for his birthday that his mother had sneered at, wafted toward me. "What contract, Emma?" I took a deep breath. "I've been offered the position of Director of Cardiac Research, with a substantial increase in both budget and salary." Margaret's eyes widened, and I could almost see the calculations running behind them. That's wonderful, Emma. We've always believed in you, haven't we, Richard?" My father-in-law nodded vigorously. "Absolutely. Always said you were brilliant." The blatant lie hung in the air between us. I thought about all the dinner parties where they'd introduced me as David's wife instead of Dr. Emma Winters. The times they'd cut me off mid-sentence when I tried to discuss my work. The not-so-subtle suggestions that I should quit my hobby and focus on giving them grandchildren. "Actually," I said, "I don't recall either of you ever saying that." An uncomfortable silence fell over our little group. A nurse walked by, giving us a curious glance. "Emma," David said softly, reaching for my hand, "let's not do this here. Let's go home and talk." Home. The word hit me differently now. Our apartment, paid for by David's trust fund because my measly researcher's salary couldn't possibly afford Manhattan real estate, as Margaret had pointed out countless times. "I need some time to think," I said, pulling my hand away. "I'll stay at a hotel tonight." David's face fell. "A hotel? But why? This should be a celebration." I looked at him squarely. 3 hours ago, you let your mother ban me from accompanying you to her examination. You stood there while your family mocked me in public. And now, suddenly, I'm worth celebrating? His face flushed. "That's not fair, Emma. You know how mother gets when she's anxious. And you know how I've felt for 5 years," I countered. "Excluded, belittled, tolerated at best." Margaret stepped forward, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "Emma, dear, you're being dramatic. Families have their little squabbles. It doesn't mean we don't love you." The word love from her lips sounded so foreign that I almost laughed. "Mrs. Winters," came a voice from behind us. We turned to see Dr. Chen approaching with a sleek leather portfolio. "I'm glad I caught you before you left. You forgot the preliminary contract documents." He handed me the folder with a warm smile. "The legal team made the revisions you requested. The signing bonus figure is on page 3. I thanked him, acutely aware of my in-laws, trying to peek at the folder. Dr. Miller also asked me to remind you that the penthouse suite at the Langham is reserved for you tonight, courtesy of the hospital board. The driver is waiting whenever you're ready." I blinked in surprise. I hadn't requested a hotel, but Dr. Chen gave me a subtle wink that told me he understood exactly what I needed right now. "Thank you, Dr. Chen. I'll head there shortly." As he walked away, David stared at me incredulously. "The Langham? Emma, this is insane. Come home with us. Mother will make your favorite dinner." I almost snorted. Margaret had never once cooked for me, and certainly didn't know my favorite foods. "I need space to think," I said firmly, "about my new position and about our marriage." The word marriage fell between us like a stone. David's face paled. "What are you saying?" he whispered. "I'm saying that today has been illuminating in more ways than one. I've realized what I'm worth professionally and what I've been accepting personally." Margaret stepped forward, her voice suddenly sharp. "Now listen here, young lady. Don't let one lucky break go to your head. You'd be nothing without this family, nothing." There it was, the real Margaret breaking through the newly applied veneer of support. I smiled sadly. That's exactly what I needed to hear. I turned and walked toward the hospital exit, feeling lighter with each step. Behind me I could hear David arguing with his mother, their voices rising until a security guard approached them. Outside, a sleek black car was waiting. The driver opened the door for me, and as I slid into the cool leather seat, I felt the weight of the Winters family expectations falling away. At the Langham, I was escorted to a penthouse suite that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Central Park and the glittering Manhattan skyline. A bottle of champagne sat chilling in an ice bucket with a note from Dr. Miller, "To new beginnings." I kicked off my shoes and sank onto the plush sofa, finally opening the contract folder. The number on page 3 made me gasp. The signing bonus alone was more than I'd earned in the past 3 years combined. As I sat there, my phone continued to buzz with messages from David and his family. I silenced it and instead called the one person who had always believed in me. "Mom?" I said when she answered. "You're not going to believe what happened today." By morning, I had 47 missed calls and 62 text messages from David and his family. I read none of them. Instead, I ordered room service, took a long shower in the marble bathroom, and dressed in the clothes that had been delivered to my suite. A tailored pantsuit with a note from Dr. Larson's assistant, "For your big day." At 8:45, a car took me back to the hospital, but this time I entered through the executive entrance. Security guards greeted me by name, and I was escorted directly to the boardroom where yesterday's meeting had taken place. Dr. Miller and Dr. Chen were already there, along with the hospital's legal team. For the next 2 hours, we discussed the details of my new position. By 11 a.m., I had signed the contract that would change my life forever. "Congratulations, Dr. Winters," Dr. Miller said, shaking my hand firmly. "The press release goes out at noon. We expect significant media attention given the implications of your research." I nodded, still processing the magnitude of what was happening. My therapy could potentially save millions of lives and change the standard of care for heart attack patients worldwide. As the meeting concluded, Dr. Chen walked me to my new office, a spacious corner suite with my name already on the door. "Dr. Emma Winters, Director of Cardiac Research. Take some time to settle in," he said kindly. "Your team is eager to meet you, but I've scheduled that for tomorrow to give you a chance to acclimate." I thanked him, and once alone I finally turned on my phone. Among the barrage of messages from the Winters family was an email from my lawyer confirming he'd received my request to review my prenuptial agreement. Just as I was setting the phone down, it rang. "David, After a moment's hesitation, I answered. "Emma, thank God," he said, his voice ragged. "Where are you? I've been worried sick." "I'm at the hospital," I replied calmly. "In my new office." There was a pause. "Your new... Can I come see you, please? We need to talk." I considered refusing, but decided it was better to face this now. "Fine. Manhattan Presbyterian, East Tower, 15th floor. I'll be there in 20 minutes, he promised. While waiting, I explored my new office, running my fingers over the mahogany desk and state-of-the-art computer. A separate door led to a private research lab equipped with technology I'd only dreamed of using. The intercom buzzed. "Dr. Winters, your husband is here." "Send him in," I said, taking a seat behind my desk. When David entered, he looked like he'd aged years overnight. His usually perfectly styled hair was disheveled, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. "Emma," he breathed, taking in the office, my new clothes, and the confidence with which I sat at the impressive desk. "This is incredible." "Thank you," I said simply. He moved to take a seat across from me. "I'm so sorry about yesterday. Mother was completely out of line, and I should have defended you." "Yes, you should have," I agreed, "just like you should have defended me all the other times over the past 5 years. He winced. "I know. I've been a coward. But Emma, I love you. We can start fresh now. Things will be different." I studied his face, searching for the man I'd fallen in love with in graduate school, before his family's influence had worn him down, before he'd chosen their approval over my dignity time and again. "Would things be different if I was still just a research assistant?" I asked quietly. "If Dr. Chen hadn't walked into that waiting room yesterday, would anything have changed?" David opened his mouth, then closed it again, unable to lie convincingly. "That's what I thought," I said. "What are you saying, Emma?" I took a deep breath. "I'm saying that I've spent 5 years trying to earn the respect of your family, compromising myself in the process, and it took a multi-million-dollar research breakthrough for them to even pretend to value me. But I value you," he insisted. "I've always valued you." "Not enough to stand up for me," I replied. "Not enough to be a partner, rather than just another Winters family member I had to please." Before he could respond, my intercom buzzed again. "Dr. Winters, the press conference is set to begin in 15 minutes. Dr. Miller requests your presence in the media room." "Thank you," I replied. "I'll be right there." I stood up, smoothing my new suit. "I have to go." David rose as well, panic crossing his features. "Wait, we haven't resolved anything. What about us? What about our marriage?" I paused at the door. "I think we both know it's been over for a long time. The only difference is that now I can afford the divorce." His face crumpled. "Emma, please. Mother has already called 3 times to apologize. She wants to host a dinner to celebrate your achievement." I laughed softly. "Of course she does, now that I'm worth something to her." "That's not fair," he protested weakly. "Actually, it's perfectly fair," I said. "Your family has shown me exactly who they are for 5 years. I was the one being unfair to myself by accepting it." The intercom buzzed again, more urgently this time. "I have to go," I said. "My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce proceedings." As I walked down the hallway toward the elevator, I heard David call after me. "What about what we built together? Our life?" I turned back one last time. "I built this, David. Me. Despite your family. Not because of them. And now I'm going to build a life I actually deserve." The press conference was a blur of camera flashes and questions. I stood at the podium beside Dr. Miller and Dr. Chen, explaining in simple terms how my therapy worked and what it meant for cardiac patients worldwide. When a reporter asked about my journey, I spoke honestly. Science is about persistence, about believing in your work even when others don't see its value yet. Today isn't just a victory for cardiac medicine. It's a reminder that we should never let anyone else define our worth. Afterward, as I was walking back to my office, my phone rang. It was my mother. "I just watched you on the live stream," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You were magnificent, honey." "Thanks, Mom," I said, feeling tears prick at my eyes. "Are you really divorcing David?" she asked gently. I took a deep breath. Yes. I finally realized something yesterday. All this time, I thought I needed the Winters family to accept me, to prove my worth. But the truth was, I needed to accept my own worth first. My mother was quiet for a moment. "I'm proud of you, Emma, not because of the breakthrough or the new job, though those are amazing, but because you're finally valuing yourself the way you deserve." As I ended the call and stepped into my new office, I felt a profound sense of peace. Through the large windows, I could see Manhattan spread out before me, full of possibilities. On my desk, the hospital PR team had left the afternoon editions of several newspapers, all featuring the press release about my breakthrough. "Revolutionary cardiac therapy, developed by Dr. Emma Winters, set to save millions," read the headline of the New York Times. Not Mrs. David Winters, not the daughter-in-law of the prominent Winters family, just Dr. Emma Winters, finally standing in her own light.